On deck, you scabrous dogs! Hands for braces! Let go and hold to run free!
Movies Inside Out presents How Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl was filmed. Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl is a Disney adventure movie that was released in the summer of 2003. Movies about pirates became less popular in Hollywood in the 40s, but the story about Jack Sparrow rekindled the interest. Watch this video to learn more about how they made the movie that marked the beginning of a whole franchise. The creation story. The history of Pirates of the Caribbean started in the 90s when Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio got an idea to make a script inspired by a Disney ride. After they finished working on the animated movie Aladdin in 1992, they brought the idea to Disney producers but got turned down. In 2001, Jay Wolpert came forward with a similar idea, but the studio didn't like the script due to lack of originality. In his version, Elizabeth is held captive by the man whose proposal she turned down, and Will Turner is a prison guard who helps Jack Sparrow escape to save the girl together. Then, Disney brought another screenwriter on board the project, Stuart Beattie, who wrote a pirate story titled Quest for the Caribbean back in 1991. The producer, Jerry Bruckheimer, asked Elliott and Rossio, whom we've already mentioned, to rewrite the script. This is when the concept that defined the whole franchise was born. The story about pirates had to have a mystical ring to it. So they added curses, magic, and superstitions to the movie. And Gore Verbinski, the director of the new project, put his own spin on the movie. He remembered how the Pirates of the Caribbean ride scared him and made him laugh at the same time when he was a kid. He wanted to capture this mixture of fear and humor in the movie. However, the main character was still not finished. In the original script, Burt Lancaster was the inspiration behind Jack Sparrow. He played masculine characters that were pretty generic. By the way, the original attraction didn't have this character, so the movie creators had room for creativity, and they decided to look for a charismatic actor. Casting. During the early production stages, they were thinking of casting Bill Murray, Steve Martin, or Robin Williams as Jack Sparrow. Then, they considered Matthew McConaughey for the role because of his resemblance to Burt Lancaster. Other candidates included Christopher Walken, Rick Mayall, and Cary Elwes. The studio would pick one of them if they released the movie straight on DVD without taking it to the big screen. They also were thinking of giving the role to Michael Keaton and Jim Carrey. Robert De Niro was also offered to play Jack Sparrow, but he declined the offer as he didn't believe the project would be lucrative, just like the pirate movies released in those recent years. The screenwriter, Stuart Beattie, saw Hugh Jackman as the lead. They've known each other since high school they went to in Australia. Even his name, Jackman, had a similar ring to the name of Captain Jack Sparrow. However, when Disney execs decided to release the movie theatrically, they deemed Hugh not big enough of a star. They ended up casting Johnny Depp for the role, even though he wasn't considered a profitable actor back then. To Depp's advantage, he was enthusiastic about perfecting the character, especially since they didn't have the end version of the script at the time. During his first meeting with the director, Johnny shared a bunch of ideas, one of which was absolutely insane. He suggested that the pirate loses his nose in a sword fight and has it sewn back. But because of poor blood circulation, his main fear would be sneezing or snorting some pepper rather than death. Verbinski knew immediately that it would be impossible to bring that idea to life, but he still tried to come up with a way to promote it to the studio. Later on, Depp added a lot of iconic features to the character, which we'll tell you about a bit later. So let's go back to the casting process. The contenders of the main female role of Elizabeth Swann were Amanda Bynes, Jessica Alba, and Jamie Alexander. Keira Knightley, who ended up landing the role, nearly missed the audition because of heavy traffic. The actress was only 17 at the moment, and she doubted herself.
I can't breathe.
Yes, I'm a bit nervous myself.
Moreover, she was convinced she would be fired after several days on set, so she packed light. The studio was considering Jude Law, Ewan McGregor, Tobey Maguire, Christopher Masterson, and Christian Bale for the role of Will Turner. But Orlando Bloom and Heath Ledger were the main candidates. The director, Gore Verbinski, chose Bloom because he thought that it would be a smart financial move since the actor's name was everywhere thanks to his role in The Lord of the Rings. Jeffrey Rush, who was cast as Barbossa, also spoke in Orlando's favor as they had just co-starred in the Australian Western movie Ned Kelly. As for Rush, he got an offer personally from Gore Verbinski. He sent the actor a letter saying that he was his third choice for the project after Alec Guinness and Peter Sellers, and he couldn't get either of them on board. They thought about offering the role of Governor Swan to Sylvester McCoy and Tom Wilkinson for a moment, but it ended up going to Jonathan Pryce. Johnny Depp was over the moon because he's a huge fan of the actor. The musician Jimmy Buffett could play one of the pirates, but he had to turn down the offer due to his busy schedule. By the way, casting for Pirates extras and Sparrow's inmates was a quite curious process. It was hosted in the basement of the Disney studio, and they invited bikers and jobless actors. First, they were handed cold weapons, which were quickly replaced with rubber props because people started getting hurt. Eventually, they picked 10 people out of 600. Another fun casting fact: the cast consisted not only of people, but of animals as well. For instance, Jack's monkey was played by two primates, a female named Tara and a male named Levi. Both monkeys were difficult to work with, and the filming crew had to put up with them. The actors would often have to wait for the primates just to look in the right direction. But it didn't stop Tara and Levi from appearing in other film projects and touring across America together with a circus troupe. The parrot of the mute pirate was also played by two birds, Chip and Salsa. The former appeared in the scenes that required sitting still, while the latter did stunts. By the way, the actor and editor Christopher S. Capp voiced the parrot. The prison dog in The Curse of the Black Pearl was played by the terrier named Twister. One of the trainers took him after the filming finished. He had a long career working on cinema and TV projects and switched to commercials at the end of his acting career. The filming process. The filming of Pirates of the Caribbean was supposed to start in June 2002, but it was postponed until October. Michael Eisner, the Walt Disney Company CEO at the time, reportedly tried scrapping the production as he didn't believe in the success of the project and wasn't happy with the decision to cast Johnny Depp for the main role. But Gore Verbinski didn't stop the work, and when Eisner saw the concept art, he was so impressed that he changed his mind. Another setback was the fire that started on set. Luckily, no one got hurt, but the damage was assessed at $350,000. By the way, initially, they planned to film the movie in the giant pool that was used to film Titanic and Pearl Harbor, but the creators of the historical adventure movie Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World happened to be quicker and had already booked the set. In the meantime, Johnny Depp was working on how he would bring his character to life. The image of Jack Sparrow was inspired by the music video to the song Stand and Deliver by Adam and the Ants, where the frontman appears as a surrealistic interpretation of Dick Turpin, an English highwayman. While doing his research on pirates, Depp came to the conclusion that you could call them rock stars of their time, so he copied the mannerisms of his friend Keith Richards. The idiosyncrasies made quite an impression on the Disney execs during the first table read. After that, Michael Eisner started thinking that Johnny was trying to ruin the movie by making his character look either gay or drunk.
So that's it then. That's the secret grand adventure of the infamous Jack Sparrow.
To make his character even more memorable, Depp got gold teeth installed. However, he went a bit overboard, and the producer Jerry Bruckheimer asked him to keep only a couple of teeth with golden shine. Costume designers chose costumes for Captain Sparrow that would cover the countless tattoos of the actor. As for the tattoo on his arm, it was actually painted, but he got it for real after the movie premiere and dedicated it to his son Jack. Fun fact, the bold eyeliner became a part of Jack Sparrow's look by accident. Makeup artists applied a lot of product while filming cave scenes to achieve a better image on camera, but it looked so good on Johnny that they decided to keep using it. Orlando Bloom also wanted to make his character look cooler and mimicked Jack Sparrow, but Gore Verbinski always humbled him. "You're still a dork," the director would say to him, as Will Turner wasn't supposed to be cool.
On my word, do as I say, or I'll pull this trigger and be lost to Davy Jones' locker.
Still, there is one scene where Bloom parodies Sparrow that made it to the movie. By the way, the skills Orlando developed on the set of The Lord of the Rings came in handy because he learned how to fence. According to the plot of The Pirates, Will is the best with swords out of all the characters in the movie.
I practice 3 hours a day so that when I meet a pirate, I can kill him.
The screenwriters named Barbossa the second best fencer. Jeffrey Rush was so dedicated to learning and perfecting fight choreography that he tired out the whole stunt crew. As for Jack Sparrow, he doesn't have remarkable fencing skills, but Johnny Depp still came up with his signature style. The actor used Muhammad Ali's method, keeping the arms down and letting the opponent come closer. The character uses this tactic most of the time, applying minimum effort to achieve maximum results. Filming scenes on the water often goes off schedule due to unforeseen circumstances. Pirates of the Caribbean was no exception, although the crew spent only 6 days in the sea. Still, a lot of actors and crew workers suffered from seasickness. Trying to avoid getting sick, Keira Knightley took a motion sickness pill, but it made her fall asleep in the middle of a shooting day. By the way, since Keira was pretty young, her mom had to accompany her on set. One night, they got stuck in the middle of the sea. They were coming back after filming on one of the Caribbean islands, and their boat hit a reef. Curiously, locals had warned the film crew about the reefs, but the Marines who worked on set said they had GPS, so they knew where every single reef in the area was. Gore Verbinski regretted not listening to the locals, who knew better than going boating at night. Keira, her mom, and the skipper were recovered within several hours, but ever since then, they had all-night shootings in the studio instead of on location. Filming in water didn't make work easier for the costume designer either. Johnny Depp, for instance, kept losing his hat. After 10 leather head pieces sank, they decided to start making them out of rubber so they would stay afloat. By the way, one of the most iconic costumes, the dresses that Pintel and Righetti wore at the end of the movie, could never appear on screen. The producer, Jerry Bruckheimer, had some second thoughts about the scene and told Penny Rose, the costume designer, not to make them. But she still worked on them and gave them to the director. The makeup artist also had a lot of work, so Kevin McNally, who played Gibbs, grew out his own hair and beard to save time spent on makeup. Keira Knightley, on the other hand, had to wear a wig because her hair hadn't grown long enough after her previous projects. She also wore colored contacts, but only in the final scene of the movie. They made Keira dizzy, so she threw them away right after the wrap.
I can't breathe.
Johnny Depp wore sun-blocking contacts almost all the time so he wouldn't squint in the sun. To keep up with the shooting schedule, the crew had to work 24/7. Gore Verbinski believed it was conducive to creating an intimate atmosphere on set. Apart from that, there was room for improvisation. The director even introduced such methods as visual effect improvisation and stunt improvisation on set. Sometimes the actors would practice one stunt and then switch it while filming. You can see it in the scene when Sparrow jumps out of the water and lands on the deck of his ship. A lot of Jack Sparrow's lines that caught on were also improvised. For instance, his famous
Savvy.
and the running gig about eunuchs.
No one. He's no one. A distant cousin of my aunt's nephew, twice removed. Lovely singing voice, though. Eunuch.
One of the last lines of Captain Sparrow
Bring me that horizon.
was also invented by Johnny Depp the morning they shot the scene. Fun fact, the British metal band called Bring Me the Horizon used this phrase as an inspiration. Even the animals improvised on camera. The smile that Jack the monkey gave Barbossa after he thanked it for retrieving the Aztec coin was an accident. By the way, the actor Jeffrey Rush tried to keep the left side of the frame. He had a theory that people look at the screen from left to right, and it was the only way he could make the viewers notice him while being in the same frame with the charming Keira Knightley and the charismatic monkey. The filming crew finished in March 2003, after which the crew literally looted the props from the treasure cave. Verbinski shared that there were no coins left, and Johnny Depp confessed that he and his daughter took a lot of treasures from the set. But it wasn't all butterflies and rainbows for the cast. Zoe Saldana, who played a pirate and Sparrow's ex-girlfriend, didn't enjoy working on the movie because of the hierarchical approach on set. She didn't like that the extras were not treated the same way as the main cast, and the producers kept on rushing the process. It was the first big Hollywood project for the actress, and she almost left the industry after it. Many years later, the producer, Jerry Bruckheimer, personally apologized to her for making her experience so negative, which Zoe thought was very sweet of him. Keira also had her worries because the movie creators were obsessed with her cup size. The makeup artist spent 45 minutes every day to make her breasts appear bigger, and the actress had to wear push-up bras under her dress. On the artwork, the movie designers photoshopped her to make the size bigger. Right after they finished filming, Knightley gracefully laughed it off, saying that she didn't even have to get surgery, but when working on her next projects, she made it clear to the movie execs that they couldn't introduce any digital changes to her body. At the post-production stage, the director, Gore Verbinski, would often spend 18 hours in the editing room to finish the work by the premiere date. By the way, because of the rush, a lot of background shots and some of the ships were created using CGI instead of filming in real life. This is when they also used 5 consecutive shots to make the opening scene of the movie when the ship appears from the fog. The scene was done 2 days before the premiere. It's curious that the designers scanned turkey jerky to create the texture of decomposing skin when the pirates transformed into living skeletons. To preserve the individuality of the skeletons, the movie creators kept the actors' eyes. Another fun fact is that Verbinski made some references to other movies. For instance, the scene where Jack Sparrow stands on the mast of the sinking boat is an homage to 1924 Buster Keaton's movie The Navigator. The scene when Will and Jack are walking underwater beneath the rowing boat is a reference to the 1952 movie The Crimson Pirate. When you know about it, you can see why the movie creators ignored the physics laws in this scene. They also added a lot of allusions to Disneyland. One of them is the song Yo Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me, written specifically for the ride in 1967, and the woman in the red dress that slaps Jack on the island of Tortuga is a character from the Disneyland ride. The prison scene, when the inmates try to call the dog that has the keys to the cell, is also a reference to the ride. In the movie, Sparrow says,
You can keep doing that forever, the dog is never going to move.
as the dog actually doesn't move in the ride. By the way, later on, Jack tries to bribe the dog with a bone, just like a robot pirate in the ride. Some moments before that, the smoke from a cannon shot takes the shape of Mickey Mouse's head in the night sky. There are some more intricate Easter eggs in the movie. For instance, the apple that Barbossa is looking forward to eating after the spell is lifted is a Granny Smith apple. This variety originated in Australia, where Geoffrey Rush was born, though it happened only in 1868, 150 years after the events depicted in the movie. Movie mistakes and errors. Gore Verbinski states that there are many mistakes in the movie that viewers don't even notice. For example, there are some shots where you can see filming crew members. There are also scenes where objects appear in different places or the position of the sun or moon changes. When Barbossa is going after the interceptor and shouts commands, in one shot his teeth are perfectly white, while the rest of the time they are rotting. Your toothpaste ad could be here. And Jack Sparrow wears a scarf with the modern Adidas tag. Sure, and he also rocked a pair of Air Force sneakers. What an absurd claim to make. There was also something weird happening to Will's facial hair. During his first appearance in the movie, he is clean shaven. In the next scene, which happens later the same day, he has a goatee and a mustache. In the scene where Will wakes up after the pirate attack, in the background, you can see the actress who played young Elizabeth. We can cut the movie about curses and ghosts some slack and forgive it some unauthenticity, but we can definitely say a thing or two about the historical inaccuracies. The events in the movie take place at the beginning of the 18th century, but they didn't use the gallows shown in the movie until the end of the century. The pirate seal was actually placed on the forehead while Jack had it on his hand, and the Royal Navy would never promote James Norrington to commander, as it was a title given temporarily to complete a specific mission or when a flagman officer wasn't around. The movie creators deliberately made a unique pirate flag for Jack Sparrow. They combined the image of a skull that could typically be seen on pirate flags, like Jack Rackham's, and crossed bones, the element that would usually mean death. The movie shows the wrong way to use the bed warmer. Elizabeth's maid fills it with red-hot coals and puts it near the girl's feet on the bed. This way, Miss Swan would definitely get burns. In reality, the temperature of the coals was way lower, and they would put the device in bed beforehand to warm it up. They didn't sleep with it. There are some plot holes in The Curse of the Black Pearl as well. For instance, why would the pirates get so scared when Elizabeth threatened to throw the medallion into the water? Later on, it was shown that they could walk underwater, so they could easily pick up the coin. Granted, it would be a tricky task to do at night, but it definitely wasn't impossible for the immortal ghosts. Speaking about the medallion, at the beginning of the movie, little Elizabeth holds the coin with a skull on one side and Baroque ornament on the other. Then the coin looks the same on both sides. Barbosa says that the crew started to experience the effect of the curse gradually. First, they had a loss of taste and smell, and so on. But when Jack Sparrow took a coin from the chest, he immediately turned into a skeleton. In the scene where the pirates throw Elizabeth overboard, Barbosa mentions that her dress is still warm, but he wouldn't be able to feel the warmth. Technically, he could do it on purpose to make the crew angry and keep up their morale, reminding them what they were fighting for.
I feel.
Deleted scenes and bloopers. The filming was often interrupted by laughter that the actors couldn't hold back after Johnny Depp messed up his lines or improvised.
You have no idea. What'd you call me? Are you calling me out? Who's calling you out? How do you like it?
I'm sorry, I don't understand this man.
Ankles all the way.
As for the actor who played Jack Sparrow, he struggled for several takes to nail the phrase addressed to the mute Cotton.
Do you have the courage and fortitude to follow orders and stay true in the face of danger and almost certain death?
Orlando Bloom had some trouble with the sword that his character threw in the air to impress Governor Swan. The actor also had to do a few takes. Fun fact, the original version of the movie didn't show Jack Sparrow taking a coin. The test screening revealed that the audience couldn't tell whether he became a ghost in the cave or he was one all along. So they had to find a shot that could be slowed down to make it clear when Jack hides the coin. The BBC deleted some scenes depicting violence but kept the explicit language while broadcasting the movie. When Disney Channel aired the movie on its 10th anniversary in 2013, they got rid of cursing as well. They also blurred close-up shots of the moving skeleton hand, the fork stuck in the false eye of a pirate, and almost all scenes with the skeleton monkey. The scenes deleted by the director were added to the DVD edition. Those include the awkward moment when Will was waiting to meet the governor and he accidentally takes a candle off the wall, Elizabeth and her father in the carriage where he tells her to behave, and the extended scene of Jack escaping from prison with Will's help. The viewers can see the full scene of the conversation between Sparrow and Elizabeth on the deserted island and the pirate showing the girl his scars. Apart from that, they also cut the scene where Jack lifts the spell and the chest with coins closes once Will Turner touches it. They also filmed, but didn't show, a failed scene where Sparrow and Will hijacked the Interceptor. It turned out that they didn't cut some ropes that tied the two ships together, and when the Interceptor started moving, the ropes burst. There were pieces of wood flying around, and one of them hit Johnny Depp in the leg, making him fall. It's also interesting that the story behind the two women who slapped Jack Sparrow was revealed in the short movie Pirates of the Caribbean: Tales of the Code Wedlocked, which was released in 2011. Worldwide recognition. The title was supposed to be just Pirates of the Caribbean, but 5 months before the premiere, they decided to add a second part in case the project was a success: The Curse of the Black Pearl. Gore Verbinski didn't like the phrasing as the Black Pearl ship wasn't cursed. The Aztec Gold was. The Disney marketing team compromised by using a small font on promotion materials. The movie premiered on June 28, 2003 in the Disney California Adventure Park. It was the first time an event like that was hosted there. The movie was theatrically released on July 9, and even though many journalists were expecting the movie to fail, it earned more than $46.5 million during the first weekend. The movie ended up grossing more than $650 million worldwide, making it the fourth most commercially successful movie of 2003, while the budget was only $140 million. To fit the budget, the movie creators had to drop some action scenes from the script. China refused to release the movie because of the depiction of ghosts, supernatural things, and the afterlife. Critics gave pretty favorable reviews of Verbinski's work and appreciated the humor. They were especially raving about Johnny Depp's performance, dubbing it ingenious and mesmerizing. Even the experts who thought the movie lacked some dynamics enjoyed the actor's performance. By the way, Depp got $10 million for the role.
I suppose you didn't deserve that one either.
No, that one I deserve.
The adventure blockbuster about pirates scored Oscar nominations for Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing, Best Visual Effects, and Best Makeup. Costumes, sound, and visual effects also received BAFTA nominations, while the makeup and hair artists took their awards home. Saturn Awards nominated Pirates in 11 categories, giving the movie the prize for Best Costumes. Of course, the actors also received their awards. Keira Knightley, Jeffrey Rush, and Orlando Bloom entered the race for awards, but Depp was the one who got all the attention. He won a SAG Award and an MTV Award, was also nominated for an Oscar, Golden Globe, BAFTA, and Saturn Awards. Even though his career started gaining traction long before the role of Jack Sparrow, movie fans all across the world associate Johnny with the pirate. Starring in Pirates of the Caribbean helped Orlando Bloom to nail down his success after The Lord of the Rings, and these two projects gave him his signature roles. The role of Elizabeth made Keira Knightley a star, but the actress managed to become more than just a one-hit wonder. She often showcases her talent in historical movies, and she's contributed to the fight for natural female appearance on screen. For Jeffrey Rush, starring in the successful franchise was an opportunity to reignite interest in his persona. By the time they started filming the first installment, he already had built a successful career in cinema and theater. Being cast in Pirates had a similar effect on the other actors' careers, maybe except for Zoe Saldana. She's more known for starring in other successful franchises like Star Trek, Avatar, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Pirates of the Caribbean had insane success. The main theme was the most popular ringtone. People quoted lines from the movie, and pirates suddenly became mainstream again. After that, Disney updated the rides to add new beloved characters. They certainly didn't miss when they added the second part of the title, The Curse of the Black Pearl. The sequel was released in 2006. Now, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is the 10th highest grossing franchise of all time, although the latest movies are not as popular as the first installments. Which part of the franchise is your favorite?